going to think for just a minute about a forward shoulder. And a forward shoulder is something that a lot of people worry about. And I'm not sure it's always necessary, but for some people, it definitely is a good adjustment to make. So a straight shoulder should look like this shoulder for the most part. You see that the shoulder comes from the point straight out to the sleeve, and then the sleeve drops pretty straight down. That is how the shoulder. The shoulder point is a very complicated place to identify. You can use your bone structure, but my bone structure puts my shoulder super forward, and I would rather it look more natural. So I actually keep my shoulder seam higher than my actual tip of my shoulder bone. These are all sort of preferences you can choose to pay attention to or not. But for some women, and you may well be one of them, the shoulder just looks twisted. It looks, and on both the Opus and the Tabula Rasa jacket, it generally is fine up here in the neck edge, but it's definitely comes back so that it's not straight. It's sort of crooked towards the back, okay? And you want to adjust that so that the shoulder can sit better. And the way to do that is to take a little bit off the front here and to add that to the back. So we have the right amount total, but we don't have it in quite the right place. And so the next video is going to show you if you find that you like a more forward shoulder, or you've been told you need to put in a forward shoulder. On both the Opus and the Tabula Rasa jacket, we would suggest that you leave it the same at the neck edge, but you can then alter it as it comes down the shoulder, and then you also have to move the point on the sleeve. So the video will walk you through the whole thing. I know it's kind of confusing. It was a little hard for me to show you. If I had, and maybe I'll make one for my next series of videos, if I had a color block where my fronts and my backs were a different color, we might be able to see it a little bit better. That is a way, if you have issues with all kinds of different ways things fit onto your body, for you to test the pattern, is to use a different color in every single piece, and then you will be able to know what you need to do to adjust it. But if you want or prefer a forward shoulder, use this adjustment, follow it step by step, and again, you'll have a improved pattern for your body. Let's take a look at how you can move the shoulder forward. This is the Tabula Rasa jacket. You could also do it on the Opus. Some people find that the shoulder sits better for them if it comes forward a little bit. You can also do this by moving the shoulder backwards. All of these things are shown pretty thoroughly on the in the document, Common Fitting Adjustments. But I'm going to show you how to do it on the front here, because we do find that a number of people like to move that the shoulder point a little bit to the front. This is the front, this is the back, and we have we do find that usually at the neck edge you don't have to make a change. You only need to make the change. You need to make it as it comes down to the shoulder point, and then adjust the back accordingly. So you have the same amount of space, you just have sort of reconfigured it. So we're going to say that the shoulder needs to be moved 3/8. That's really a perfectly fine amount. I don't know that I would move it too much more than that. And I'm going to find that 3/8. Here's the quarter, here's the 3/8. Here's the quarter, here's the 3/8. We're going to just draw that on here with our pencil, okay? And then we're going to come up here, and at the 5/8 inch seam line, which we often are making our adjustments, we're going to draw a new shoulder line. And then we're going to see if I can find my red, because I think that will show up a little bit better here. as we do this alteration, now that we have some other alterations also done on the paper pattern. You might be saying, oh, this paper pattern is looking pretty horrible. You know, the paper pattern is a great tool, and it will help you get to the right fit. And I'm not as worried about how it looks and how beautiful it is as I am that it actually fits you. Once you get it to fit you, then you can easily change. Now, we're not going to trim that off yet because we want to use that as a guide for ourselves. And we're going to then take a piece of paper here and put it on the back. And again, we're not going to change it at the shoulder point. We're just going to change it as we come up out towards the shoulder line. This is where the sleeve sits into the constructed front back of the jacket. Okay. So here we have it. We have laid it out, and we're going to do that same thing only in reverse. Instead of taking it off of the front, we're going to add it to the back, and we're going to start here at that again at that 5/8 inch point, and we're going to lay our straight ruler. These are straight ruler adjustments. We're going to measure our 3/8 inch right here on the edge of the shoulder. And then we're going to adjust this here so that we have the extra on the shoulder, all right, and not, sometimes you can't quite see that there, okay. And we're also going to, I'm going to just fold this back so we can see if this trues, because sometimes when you do shoulder work, you're not getting it in exactly the right place. And so here is our new line, and we need that to be 5/8, 5/8. So we're going to let it, well, that actually does true pretty well, but we're not going to make it any smaller. So let's just extend that large line. I'm working with the large pattern all the way up there. So we have adjusted the back to accommodate the forward shoulder. So you still have the same amount of shoulder, you just have it hitting here in different places. And so that, if you find, and if you're used to doing a forward shoulder, you might want to do this again proactively before you make your mock-up, just to see if it fits. So we would then trim this off here, and we would trim off this new section of this pattern in order to make the adjustment. Now there's one more thing you have to do, because this pattern is going to come into the sleeve, and here is our sleeve, and the pattern is going to come into the sleeve, and there was a dot here. This is the dot where you're supposed to be able to align. We added that extra one when we took it out for the petite. This is the dot that will align, and when I didn't trim off that large pattern. Let me do that right now so we're not confused. I have my whole pattern here, and we're working in the size large. This is really, it's really important that you make sure you have trimmed the pattern to the size that you are wearing or using to make your mock-up as your baseline, so that everything will fit accordingly. So we're going to trim this off, because I failed to do it before I sat down to do the adjustment. And it's way better to have it trimmed off than to try to do it with all that extra on there. If you need the large, trim it off. Okay, and we'll trim this off so that we know what we're doing. So what happens is we have moved the shoulder point 3/8 of an inch forward. And so we need to take this shoulder dot and we need to move it 3/8 of an inch. And this is the large dot. You're going to read the numbers on those dots. Remember, the dots sit 5/8 inch in. Along the seam line, not the cutting line. So your new dot is going to be right here, And I would just write with my red pencil so I don't forget, right? New dot forward shoulder. Keep yourself, and we're going to say here 3/8 inch forward shoulder, okay? Just so we know, we keep it all in our heads and we know what we're doing. So there you have moving the shoulder. If you were to move the shoulder to the back, you would move the dot to the back. Any way that you make any kind of shoulder adjustment here in the armhole, you also have to annotate it on the sleeve. Okay, you're ready to go.